Imagine living in a country with annual inflation over 127% and interest rates near that number? Well, in this economy, your answer will be like, oh hell, no way! But yeah, in Argentina, that's the daily reality as the country grapples with a spiraling economic crisis. Inflation there is the third highest in the world, just behind only Venezuela and Zimbabwe. Despite all these exports and tourism, how Argentina's economy is made to fail? Let's analyze. According to data released by the Argentine government, Argentina's annual inflation rate has increased by more than 80%, its highest level in 3 decades, and could reach 90% by the end of this year. Rampant inflation has bogged many in the country as they turn to parallel currency and commodity exchange markets amid dwindling central bank reserves, soaring budget deficits, and bombshells. Debt is about to appear, but this is not the first time the country has been in economic danger. For those of us who have lived in this country longer, everything has a sense of déjà vu, said Carlos Gervasoni, associate professor and head of the political science department at the Torquato de Italia University in Buenos Aires. It's always the same, there are just different things that Argentina faces every 5 or 10 years. Argentina has struggled continuously with inflation since the 1980s and even earlier. But the COVID-19 pandemic, combined with Russia's war in Ukraine, dwindling global food supplies, and tightening energy markets, has sent shockwaves through an already collapsing economy. Nearly 4 in 10 Argentines now live below the poverty line. The economy, which is highly dollarized due to the devaluation of the Argentine peso, uses billions of dollars in foreign exchange reserves every week. Some Argentines have begun exchanging milk for diapers. Others complained that frequent price changes left them guessing the price of their newspaper or bag of rice, often only finding out when they got to the checkout center. Tourists deciding to use debit cards abroad have to pay taxes of nearly 50% on transactions, a desperate measure to keep foreign currency reserves at home. Of course, it's a big problem, but when you're born into it, you get used to it, said Alfonso Sondblad, a university student in Buenos Aires. But what you feel most is uncertainty. You can never disconnect from the world of politics and the economy, even when you're a child. However, because the budget deficit is unstoppable, the government is spending more than it is bringing in. The central bank continues to print more pesos, reducing the value of each dollar, thereby increasing inflation. It should be more serious. Argentina's central bank last week raised interest rates to normal levels. The benchmark rate is currently 69.5% in an attempt to control inflation, but such measures will also limit investment and economic growth. And then there was another debt crisis. Argentina still owes the IMF $40 billion as part of its 2018 bailout, but it borrowed another $44 billion from the IMF earlier this year. Then populism appeared in the person of Juan Perón, a general who became the powerful Minister of Labor after the military dictatorship emerged during World War II. Responsible for professional relations, pensions, and social services, Perón offered the moon. A few years later, he became president. The movement he created, which still exists in various forms, prioritizes short-term popular economic welfare over long-term economic development. It was a very long, very short time. Argentina is said to have had one of the largest welfare systems in the developing world and subsidizes public services, transportation, and retirement benefits for all its citizens. According to Gervasoni of Torquato de Italia University, the average Argentine pays the equivalent of less than $5 per month in electricity bills. In contrast, typical Italian and German households can expect to pay more than $230 and $270 respectively on monthly energy bills. In an effort to protect domestic consumers and generate revenue, the Argentine government relies heavily on export taxes. Earlier this year, the government increased the export tax on processed soybeans, one of the country's main products, to 33%, bringing comfort to soybean farmers but bringing more benefits to an active part of the economy. Argentina's trend of nationalizing major companies, most recently the Spanish half of oil company YPF in 2012, has not appeased foreign investors. Even if maintaining a strong social welfare program and generous subsidies for public services seems an excellent choice in the short term, the Argentine government simply does not have enough money to continue. The government is having a headache because they know things are getting worse, said Eduardo Levy-Yayari, an Argentine economist who previously served as chief economist at Argentina's central bank. No one wants to press the red button. It's like the problem with electric cars. No politician wants to be the bearer of bad news, especially when it's nearing election season in a country with particularly strong unions and a Peronist history. In early July, Argentine Economist Minister Martin Guzman resigned amid rising tensions with Vice President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner, implying that he lacked the political backing to make the necessary macroeconomic policy choices. Guzman's successor lasted a few weeks. Now Sergio Massa has inherited the problem. While Massa has publicly promised to cut back export tariffs and stop printing more money, he has not laid out a concrete plan to do so. Meanwhile, the current political unrest continues to increase Argentines' lack of trust in their leaders and exacerbate their financial concerns. I think sometimes people have the impression that Argentines are flexible and resilient because they have survived so many crises that these conditions have become the norm, and most of the times as not causing any disturbance, said Gidan of the Wilson Center. The International Monetary Fund has been the country's financial lifeline for decades now, through periods of economic growth and turmoil, but the relationship is, to say the least, complicated. Despite spending billions of dollars, the international donor never really turns things around, largely because of Argentina's political opposition to the reforms and other conditions imposed, according to loan agreements. The last few times the foundation has been involved in Argentina, it has always tried to push forward some reform agenda that Argentina needs, but it always fails, said Monica de Boll, a senior researcher at the Peterson International Institute, in a media interview. This story keeps repeating itself over and over again. It's like Groundhog Day. So in such a situation, it becomes extremely difficult to reduce inflation because what starts to happen in that situation is that people will refuse to use the currency. People will no longer trust the peso. They will immediately exchange these pesos for dollars. And once this process is underway, there are no real political tools to stop it. Therefore, interest rates have no effect. The government is spending too much. This has been a problem in Argentina for many years. The other problem is that the economy itself, because it has been so poorly managed for so long, has actually created this situation for the people where they constantly mistrust everything that policymakers say. The Argentine economy is, therefore, highly dollarized, as we call it. This causes the Argentine currency to continuously lose value compared to the USD, and that, in turn, puts pressure on inflation. So, vicious cycles are going on everywhere. And, eventually it runs up inflation to a level that is, completely unsustainable, such as the one that we see now. So what do you think about the current situation and adaptive policies of Argentina? Is there any better way to get out of the deficit and to curb the inflation? Comment down your thoughts. We will pin the best. And don't forget to smash the like button and ring the bell icon. Until next time, bye.